Good afternoon, my Real News Midday TV family. Welcome back to the channel for another news update. And in the news this afternoon, contractor killer found guilty in execution of hardware sales rep. A contractor killer has been convicted for the execution-style murder of a man who was reportedly labeled as informer after allegedly alerting his employers to a fraudulent scheme that was siphoning millions of dollars from their Manchester-based hardware business. Javon Wen, 33, was found guilty of murder and illegal possession of firearm after a near 2-week trial that ended last Friday in the Trelawney Circuit Court. The unanimous verdict came in the Duncan's courthouse after a second round of deliberations by the 7-member jury that lasted 30 minutes. The first round of deliberations, which lasted 1 hour and 48 minutes, ended with a 4-3 majority decision. Under Jamaica's Jury Act, jurors must deliberate for at least 2 hours before a majority decision can be accepted by a judge in a non-capital murder case. The victim, Deshaun Thompson, 25, a sales representative, was shot 3 times, including once in the back of the head, as he and other patrons lie face down on the floor of a bar in the quite rural community of Silent Hill in Christiana, Manchester, on March 5, 2022. Prosecutors Natalie Malcolm, a Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions, and Deborah Bryan, an Assistant Director of Public Prosecutions, led evidence that Wine entered the bar and ordered a cigarette. After smoking the cigarette, he pulled a firearm and ordered all the patrons to lie face down before standing between Thompson's legs and opening fire at a close range. He escaped in a waiting car, according to the evidence. No other patron was injured and the bar was not robbed. The main witness for the prosecution was one of the patrons who gave evidence via special measures. Murder cases involving the use of a firearm are closed to the public. Thompson's mother, Colette Bailey, said the conviction has restored her confidence in the police and Jamaica's much-maligned justice system. If it were up to her, she said, Wine, a suspected member of the Manchester-based Greenvale gang, would have to serve a minimum of 35 years in prison before being eligible for parole. His sentence hearing is set for July 3. When you were on your way from Mandeville to Silent Hill, 25 miles to kill my son, it never crossed my mind how was this going to impact the family, she said, listing one of the questions she had for the convicted killer. Bailey acknowledged that in the past, she too had been critical of the justice system, even though I've never had any experience with it. I've heard people disparage the justice system, but let me tell you something, it works. I felt like I was important to the DPP's office, she said, making reference to the office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, the country's prosecutorial authority. I felt like my son's life meant something to the DPP's office. Bailey singled out the lead police investigator, Sergeant Pat Wallace, for his handling of the case. This man was sent from God. I felt very important to the police. Massive fire halts operations on Spanish Town Road. Operations along the industrial corridor of Spanish Town Road in St. Andrew came to a standstill yesterday after a massive fire, believed to have been sparked by a gas tanker, quickly spread to nearby premises. The blaze, which raged for nearly 3 hours, required the efforts of 37 firefighters to bring under control. The Jamaica Fire Brigade reported that it was summoned around 11:58 a.m. Upon arrival, responding units were met with a severe situation that demanded additional manpower. The fire had engulfed an agro-farm warehouse at 591 Spanish Town Road, which was storing several farming chemicals. Leroy Orr, Acting Assistant Commissioner for Area 1 of the JFB, said units from Trenchtown, Halfway Tree and York Park were dispatched to the scene. When we arrived on the scene, we saw the gas tanker on fire. We got in operation and were able to contain it until it was extinguished. There was also a warehouse that was on fire at the front of the premises. We also attacked that fire and managed to bring it under control, Orr said. The origin of the fire is still under investigation. Due to the intensity of the blaze, firefighters were supported by additional units from the neighboring St. Catherine Division, bringing the total to 6 units, 4 fire trucks, and 2 water tankers. Asked about the presence of chemicals at the site, Orr said, "I won't go as far as to disclose that as yet. Our investigation will give us all the information." Checks by the news revealed that, among other chemicals, the warehouse stored herbicides such as Larvax 20SL and the Finish 20SL, as well as the insecticide Proforum 55EC, all of which can become hazardous if mishandled and may release toxic fumes when exposed to high heat. While no civilian injuries were reported, one firefighter sustained a minor injury or disclosed. Residents in surrounding communities reported respiratory discomfort from the thick chemical-laden smoke, which forced many to flee the area. Despite the hazardous conditions, Orr said firefighters were equipped to operate safely and welcomed a timely shower of rain during cooling down efforts. "It was very important that we got the shower of rain. Apart from foam, we also used the water, and therefore the rain would have helped to contain the blaze and in cooling down as well," he said. Business owners on the affected property, which houses several companies, said it was too early to estimate the damage. Residents expressed gratitude that the situation had not been worse. "I was looking after some lunch in my cook shop, and we just hear a loud boom, and the place shake and people start run. We see a ball of fire on the Fesco gas truck, and the light wire them catch fire, and then the warehouse just explode. The biggest fire me ever see. Thankfully, no lives were lost," a resident of Riverton told the news. The security manager at a nearby premises said his guard on location had to make a run for it after the heat from the tanker fire shattered glass windows at his security post. Market vendors to pay for their own electricity, says Mackenzie. Local Government Minister Desmond Mackenzie says the days of municipal corporations footing the electricity bills of vendors operating in municipal markets are over. Going forward, he said, vendors will be required to secure their own electricity by direct engagement with the Jamaica Public Service. According to Mackenzie, 90% of the 28 fires that have occurred in marketplaces across the island in the last 6 years have been linked to electricity issues such as a poor connection and illegal extraction of electricity from the JPS network. "I am saying to the Mayor, Savannah Lamart's Danry Delancey, that anybody in this market, Negril fruit and the vegetable market, who requires electricity must engage the Jamaica Public Service Company by virtue of using the same way they get a credit on the phone," said Mackenzie, who was speaking to the media following the recent meeting he had with the Westmoreland Municipal Corporation and the Negril Chamber of Commerce and Industry to finalize plans for the Negril fruit and the vegetable market. That is the kind of provision that will be made in the market for electricity. The municipality cannot undertake the cost of electricity when vendors bridge the light, steal the current, and when the bill is to be paid, it falls on the local authorities, added Mackenzie. Mackenzie said vendors who are desirous of electricity at the market will be required to utilize JPS's pay-as-you-go prepaid metering system, which allows the customers to pay for electricity upfront, as is the case with a prepaid credit for cell phones. Based on Mackenzie's plan, all new and rehabilitated markets, including Buff Bay and Port Antonio in Portland, as well as Spalding's in Manchester, will feature a natural roofing system for improved lighting and will include individual vendor responsibility for electricity. I've already spoken with JPS where they will go in and engage the vendors, Mackenzie said. The vendors will buy electricity on credit. So they're going to give me $5,000 worth of credit for electricity. It will not be the kind of electricity where they put on a transformer and run a wire into the market. In speaking to the issue of the long-term upkeep of market infrastructure, Mackenzie admitted to past shortfalls but insisted that things are now changing. Well, I can see without a fear or contradiction the 4 new markets that we had built Clarkstown, Puerto Maria, Hopewell, and Buff Bay all have a maintenance component, he said. McKenzie also noted that 80% of the island's 37 public markets are more than a century old, and urged the mayors and the municipal authorities to play their part in ensuring their proper upkeep. Guys, thank you for watching. See you this evening at 6 p.m. for another news update.